And we are back. It's been about a month or so since I last recorded the frame damage, kind of the bent cross members, and it's time to finally start looking at that and see what we can do to fix it. So I've got part of it sitting right over here on the bench, and then I've got an idea with some floor jacks and some 4x4s and some different things to try to get that cross member where it's bending into the gas tank to try to pull that back down. So I'm gonna show you what I got sitting over here in the box, and then we're gonna see what we can rig up to pull that other cross member down and get this new one put on and go from there. So there's several different manufacturers that make this piece. LNW, I think, makes one. Super ATV might make one. Longhorn Fab is another one. And then there's Offroad Beast, or ORB, is kind of the common name for it. They make really beefy suspension components, and they also make really beefy cross members. So this is a solid billet aluminum cross member. I don't even think you could bend this. If anything, you're just gonna break it. And if you break something that thick, then you need to settle down, because this thing, I mean, it's lightweight for how much metal is right here, but I mean, she's sturdy. And then they've got these blocks. I think these are for the actual bearing carrier. So it looks like they'll go somewhere like this. And then those will bolt on, and then we'll bolt on either sides. But we got to pull the other one off first, and then we'll kind of compare the two and see what it's gonna take to get this one put on. Alrighty, so I got the floor jack set up. I think this is gonna be pretty sketchy, so we will see what happens. That cross member is gonna be a lot more of a pain in the butt to take off than I thought. We're gonna have to look at that in a second, but we're gonna try to first see if we can get that member that's kind of up, caved in to the gas tank, see if we can get that pulled down. I'll show you what I've come up with. So yeah, I've got the floor jack with a 4x4 going across the frame, and then I've got the ratchet strap hooked into that cross member. So as I jack up on the jack, with that being connected down to the axle of the jack, that should stay tight as the razor tries to push up, which should pull that cross member down. Now, I don't know, we'll see. I don't have super high hopes. That's pretty tight. It might just be pulling the bottom of that cross member. I might need to reposition so that strap is more up and down. I think it's pulling it at a little bit of an angle. Alrighty. Take one did not work very well. It just wasn't at the right angle, and it was pulling the C channel, like the inside part down, but not the whole thing. So we repositioned it. I'm gonna try a different angle, and I actually got the strap to go over the top. So it's actually between the gas tank and that C channel. So we're gonna give it another go, and hopefully it makes some movement. All right, let's give it another go. Alrighty. We gotta add another 4x4. That one is starting to not look too good. Okay, so we swapped out the wood for part of this engine hoist. It's like a 4x4, 3x3 tube. And it's kind of working. You can kind of see right up there, there's some daylight coming from above that cross member where that strap is. Try to zoom in on it there. So it's pulled it off of the gas tank, but if I release the pressure, I think it's gonna come back up. So I don't think it's really fixing the problem, it's more just relieving the pressure currently. I'm gonna try to get a little closer to it and see if there is any damage to the gas tank. And if not, we'll probably just leave it how it is. I might try to crank down on the jack a little bit more. This is a pretty small jack. I don't know if it's a 2-ton or what it is, but we're kind of at a sketchy spot because both wheels, this back caster and that front one, are off the ground. So it's probably just because this isn't really centered on the RZR, so it's not really lifting straight. Pretty sketchy, but we're gonna check that cross member, see what it looks like, and if there's no damage to the tank, I think we're gonna call it good for that one, and then we'll go ahead and start changing the cross member for the bearing carrier. Alrighty, here's the new setup that we're gonna try to bend that cross member back. If you can't see, so we've got that metal bar, metal square tubing running from one side of the frame to the other. And there's a gap right here. I can fit my whole hand into it. And right over here is where we're gonna try to get that cross member to come back down out of the gas tank. So the old Husky jack wasn't cutting it. We upgraded to this 3-ton Badland jack from Harbor Freight, and we're gonna see if it's got enough power to pull that cross member back down far enough to where the steel is not going to bend back up, but it's at least relieving some of the pressure from that gas tank. So I doubled up the strap just in case, and we're gonna give it a couple pumps of this jack and see what happens. Oh. I think the straps are getting ready to go. Either that or the bar just popped into place. All right, let's relieve some of the pressure and see what happens. Looks like it just bent back up into place. Actually, no, that pulled it down. That kept it actually free. Heck yeah. So now there's actually a good sized gap in there, which is probably how it should be, instead of all bent up like that. I'll take this all off and I'll show you guys a little bit better close up. Okay, so it's bent down quite a ways from how it was. I'll see if I can flash a picture up from before, but now you can see through that gap. So using the jack as leverage actually seemed to work pretty darn well. I just needed a better jack. The old Husky back there just wasn't cutting it. This one is still bent a little bit, but honestly, not too bad. I'm gonna leave that one how it is. I really just wanted to relieve some of this pressure on the gas tank here, and now we've got a pretty good gap. So I'm happy with that. Once we put the skid plate back on, obviously we got to replace this cross member here, but once we do that, get the skid plate put back on, I'm gonna feel a lot better about this having more clearance. So we're good to go. We are back working on the frame. Obviously it's all torn down because I had the whole video of me tearing a lot of the stuff off of the Pro XP. But we got the frame straightened, as you saw, using that freaking sweet Badlands jack. So if you got a Harbor Freight close to you, definitely want to pick one of them up because you can fix your frame with it. So today we are finally getting ready to put that ORB cross member on. So I just took the bolts off of the stock cross member. So I've got it hanging down there. You've got pretty much the 2 bolts on either side. And then there's also a T40 bolt down in here, right underneath your seat. So once you take those 5 bolts out, it'll be hanging down like that. And then what you're gonna need to do is pull your drive line or your drive shaft. So I will have to pull that little pin out of that drive shaft so I can pull the entire drive shaft back. And then it should be able to come disconnected up under there. And then I'll be able to slide the whole front shaft out and we'll be able to replace that cross member. So we're gonna go ahead, drive those pins out, which when I was at Harbor Freight the other day, I picked up this little punch and chisel set. So I'm hoping one of these guys will work for punching that pin out of there, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll. We've got the bigger punch out of the set. Kind of got a flat head on the side of it, so it fits pretty much right onto that pin. So we're gonna go ahead and see if we can tap it out of there. There we go. Pop that guy clean on out of there. It wasn't too bad. Now the only issue is that drive shaft is kind of hard to get out. You can't quite pull it straight through here. So what I'm gonna try to do, because it hits the sway bar, well, I'm actually not even gonna be running that front sway bar because short course racing, I was talking to George at AA Racing, he's who's tuning my shocks, and he said they don't even run sway bars. A lot of their rock guys that are racing KOH, they don't even run them there. He's like, I would take it off, you don't really need it. So I'm gonna take his word for it. We're gonna go ahead and take that sway bar off, and then I think we should be able to pull that drive line out, no problem. You gotta be kidding me. Not gonna fit. Gotta love how Polaris puts everything together. Can't find my ratchet, so see if this little guy will crank it off of there. I know they have like the 1/2-inch version of these, and it's got a lot more power, but I don't have that yet. Nope. Give it a couple cranks loose. Give it some assistance. That might be bad for your ratchet to use it, like if it's locked up, to actually use it as a wrench, but I'm doing it, so if it breaks, I'll let you know. But so far, works pretty good. Go ahead and pull the other side off real quick. What the heck? There we go. Let's see if we can fish this thing through here. Like so. Booyah! And then, should be able to pull this drive line up and out. Hey. Maybe not. Alrighty, we got it out. One thing you guys want to make sure you do is take a Sharpie and just mark on your differential and then on your front shaft. Let's see where I've got it marked on here, right there. You want to make sure you mark that. I've also got it marked back here on the back, so that way when you go back in to line up your drive shafts, you're good to go. But I got it out. It takes a lot of persuasion and wiggling and moving, rotating to get it out without removing the rear shaft, but you can do it. It just takes a little time. So we're gonna go ahead, get this unbolted. All I gotta do is take those 2 bolts off, and we'll show you guys what we're getting ready to replace it with. So I think like I showed before, we've got the ORB cross member, and holy crap, is it beefy. So it's pretty much, I don't even know if that's about an inch thick, solid billet aluminum. So this is gonna be way, way stronger than this little thin piece, which you can see is bent. I mean, this thing feels like a tin can, and then you pick this thing up, which aluminum's pretty light, but man, this thing is solid beef. So it's actually pretty easy to put together. They give you these 2 blocks up top, and then you got to put these Allen screws in the bottom. I went ahead and used some red Loctite on those because I don't want those backing out, and we're gonna snug those up. They didn't give us any instructions that I know of, kind of just some basic pamphlets from ORB. So we're just gonna make sure we get those snugged up real good, and then pretty much bolt it up there and call it a day for the framework. Alrighty, finally got that cross member in there. So it's kind of weird. I'll show you guys what was going on down here. So there's a little Sharpie mark right in here. I put that little Sharpie mark on those splines, so when I put that drive line back in, it would line up properly. Well, I don't know what I was looking at when I was doing that or what, but there's a little notch in the back shaft, and on the front shaft, there's like a little bit of it almost looks like a chunk of metal that they welded into the splines, and that one is like where the groove is in the back. Because of that little chunk of metal, it can't go into any of the other splines. It's gotta go into that bigger groove that they put in the back shaft. Well, that did not line up with my Sharpie mark, which I was like, what the heck? But there's only one way it could go in at that spot. So I was like, well, that's gotta be how it goes. So I aligned that and it slid right in. And then I aligned the Sharpie mark that I put on the front where it goes onto the differential. So that is all good to go. We've got the cross member in there, and holy crap, that thing is absolutely beefy. Shouldn't have any issues at all bending that cross member now. It should add a little bit of rigidity down there too, which will be nice for racing. That's pretty much it for fixing the frame and putting that cross member in there. They definitely look a lot straighter than they did before. I'll throw the picture up on here. Once we put that skid plate back on there, we will be good to go. So thank you guys for watching, checking out the Razor on this little series of builds. Really, that one took a little bit longer than I wanted to, but with taking the A-arms off, I was able to get to that roll pin on the drive shaft a lot easier. So I just waited till I got all of that done. But now it's time to keep pushing on the build. And by the time you guys see this, I will probably have the long travel kit already on, but that'll be in the next video. So thank you guys for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button, and keep joining me on these next few next few videos, because this Pro XP is gonna be under a huge transformation. So again, thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.